All right. So we're diving into some cybersecurity news today, and I think this deep dive is going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's really easy to just kind of skim the headlines, but I think if we take a closer look, we can actually get some
Yeah,
pretty surprising insights
I think so too.
and help you really understand the impact of all this stuff.
Yeah, let's start with that ransomware thing with Spain's tax agency.
Okay.
The AE8, right? So the ransomware gang Trinity was like all over the news saying they stole all this data and we're going to release 560 gigabytes of data,
Right.
and they even posted screenshots as like proof.
Oh, yeah, that's a pretty classic, right? Prove it or it didn't happen kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this is where it gets interesting. So
Mm.
there are these two cybersecurity experts, Antonio Sánchez and Ramón Carlos Rico, and they basically took a deep dive into the dark web.
Oh, wow.
That kind of hidden part of the internet where a lot of this stuff happens
Right.
to kind of investigate Trinity's claims.
So wait, are you saying that the hackers maybe got it wrong? Like, is that even possible?
Well, so what their investigation suggests is that it seems like the data that was leaked probably came from like a smaller tax consultancy
Okay.
or like some related entity,
Right.
not directly from the AET.
Hmm.
And they kind of figured this out because they noticed that all the taxpayer addresses in the leaked data were all from the same city,
Oh, that makes sense.
which is, pretty unusual for a national agency, right?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, either Trinity was like intentionally misleading people, to make themselves look better,
Right.
or they like genuinely made a mistake.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And, what's even more interesting is the AEE has basically stayed silent throughout this whole thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like radio silence?
Totally silent.
Wow.
They haven't, confirmed or denied the breach, so it's kind of left everyone hanging, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty different approach from how Moffel handled their, recent breach.
Right.
They were super upfront about it.
Yeah. I mean, probably wasn't comfortable, but
Yeah, of course. But
you gotta wonder what the AEA is thinking.
Yeah, it definitely raises some questions. And I think Maffel's transparency, even though they had this cyber attack, is a good example of
Yeah.
how organizations can maintain that trust with the public.
For sure.
They were open, they were honest, and it showed that they were committed to, taking responsibility for the situation.
Right.
And the AEA's silence, could actually even make things worse.
Yeah.
Contribute to the spread of misinformation and
Yeah.
really erode public trust.
Yeah. It really makes you think, it's like we should be verifying information, especially when it comes to cybersecurity.
Oh, yeah.
Like, don't believe everything you see online.
Exactly. I mean, even these cybersecurity professionals like Sánchez and Rico, they took their time.
Right.
They carefully analyzed the situation before they, jumped to any conclusions. Yeah.
And I think we should all do the same, especially in the digital world.
Yeah,
A
definitely.
little bit of caution goes a long way.
Totally.
So,
Okay, so let's move on to a story where cybersecurity actually directly impacted an election
oh, yeah.
in Romania.
This one's fascinating. It really highlights the threat to, free and fair elections.
Yeah, and, Romania's constitutional court actually annulled the election results.
Wow.
After all these reports came out of like 85,000 cyber attacks.
That's a lot.
Yeah, like targeting election stuff and all these like social media manipulation campaigns. It's a crazy number.
It is. It is.
What were they even trying to do?
Well, so there were a few different attack techniques at play, right? Some of them were exploiting vulnerabilities on websites
Okay.
through things like SQL injection.
Yeah.
So think of it like injecting malicious code into a website's database
Oh.
to try to, get unauthorized access.
Right.
Or even manipulate data. It's kind of like sneaking in through a back door and just, causing chaos.
Okay, that makes sense. So what about the other attack?
Well, they also use cross-site scripting, which is basically tricking a website into running, this malicious code.
Oh, okay.
It's like planting a trap on the website itself.
Wow.
And on top of all that, login credentials for election systems were actually leaked and ended up on a Russian forum.
I mean, it makes you wonder about the security of our elections, right? Like if it happened in Romania, could it happen like anywhere?
Well, it's a wake-up call for sure.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't just about technical attacks, right? Social media, especially TikTok,
Yeah.
was flooded with all this, disinformation and influence operations.
Right. So it was kind of a combination of both the technical stuff and the, spreading of all that disinformation that led to, them annulling the election.
Yeah, but why was that the solution?
I know, right?
Like, why annul the election?
Yeah.
I think it shows how seriously countries are taking, cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns, especially in the context of elections.
Yeah.
They're finally recognizing that these things can really undermine the democratic process.
Right. It makes you think, especially with all the talk about election interference everywhere.
Yeah, it's definitely a global concern.
Yeah.
And I think what happened in Romania could set a precedent for, how other nations respond to similar threats.
Totally.
So,
speaking of being vulnerable, our next case shows how even a well-established company
right.
can just be completely crippled by ransomware.
Oh, yeah.
The Stoli Group, the beverage company.
Right.
They actually filed for bankruptcy after an attack in 2024.
Yeah, and this case is a perfect example of how ransomware attacks have evolved. It's not just about encrypting the data and demanding the ransom, right?
Yeah.
It's about disrupting the business, creating all these legal and compliance nightmares, damaging their reputation, and ultimately, just destroying the company.
Wow. I knew that they'd been having some financial troubles, but I had no idea that a ransomware attack could actually push a company like Stoli over the edge, What did they even target?
So they hit Stoli's ERP system.
Oh, okay.
The Enterprise Resource Planning System.
Oh.
Think of it like the central nervous system of the company.
Got it.
It manages everything, financials, inventory, supply chains, customer data.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so when that system gets locked down, basically it's chaos.
So what happened?
Well, they couldn't meet their reporting deadlines, the financial reporting for lenders, and they owed like $7.8 billion.
Oh, my God.
So, they couldn't comply. They had the disruption, potential legal issues, and all that led to bankruptcy.
Wow. So even though, maybe they had good security in other areas, this one vulnerability just, had this domino effect.
That's exactly why these ransomware gangs are increasingly targeting these ERP systems.
Yeah.
It's a high-impact attack,
Makes sense.
It can cripple even, resilient organizations.
I mean, this is like a perfect example of how we need to think beyond just protecting data, right?
Yeah.
It's about understanding all the connections.
Yeah, how everything's interconnected.
Yeah, and how, widespread the disruption can be.
It's a good reminder that cybersecurity needs to be at the top of the list for any organization.
Yeah.
Especially these days when everyone relies on technology.
Yeah, and that brings us to something that's been, popping up a lot lately. WhatsApp scams.
Oh, yeah, that's, social engineering at its best.
For sure.
Preying on our trust, and our desire to be helpful.
Totally. So let's break this down for our listener, right? What should they be on the lookout for?
So basically, be wary of any calls or video calls on WhatsApp that you're not expecting.
Okay.
Especially ones that claim to be from WhatsApp itself.
Right.
They often pretend to be customer service people.
Oh, wow.
To, fix some technical issue you probably don't even have.
Okay, so what are they after?
They want to get you to share sensitive information.
Okay.
Like codes, passwords, or even give them remote access to your device.
Wow.
They're really good at it. They exploit our trust and willingness to help.
It's scary how convincing they can be.
Yeah.
What are some red flags people should really watch out for?
Well, the big one is any contact that you're not expecting.
Okay.
Legitimate companies pretty much never reach out to you through WhatsApp to fix, technical problems.
Right.
So if you get a, call or message, especially if they're asking for personal info or access to your device, be super careful.
Okay. So what should you do if you get a call like that?
Hang up.
Okay.
And contact the company directly through their official channels, Don't click on any links. Don't engage in conversation. Better to be safe than sorry.
Good advice. It's amazing how they can exploit our trust and how familiar we are with platforms like WhatsApp.
Yeah, it's a good reminder to be vigilant and really question everything.
Absolutely. And this is just one example of social engineering.
Right.
Right? I mean, these techniques are becoming more and more sophisticated, so staying informed and aware is super crucial.
It really is.
Okay, so we've seen how cyber threats can impact governments, elections, big companies, and even just regular people.
Everyone.
And we've only just begun. What else do you have for us?
Well, let's talk about how individuals and organizations can actually bolster their defenses
Yeah.
against these threats.
Okay.
And strong passwords are really our first line of defense.
Right.
And I'm not talking about your pet's name or your birthday.
Yeah, that's basically an open invitation for hackers.
Totally. So a strong password should be, a unique combination of upper and lowercase letters, numbers, symbols. And let's be honest, remembering all those complex passwords is a nightmare.
It is.
That's where password managers come in. They're a lifesaver.
Yeah, I used to think I had a great memory, but after using the password manager, I realized I was living in the dark ages.
Seriously, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
And while we're on the topic of security must-haves, enable two-factor authentication wherever you can.
Okay.
It adds that extra layer of security
Right.
by requiring you to confirm your identity through like a separate device,
Yeah.
like your phone.
Okay.
It might seem like a hassle, but it really reduces the risk.
Oh, yeah, it's like a deadbolt for your online accounts, right?
Exactly. Totally worth it for that, extra peace of mind.
Totally.
And just like we need to keep our home secure, we need to make sure our software is up to date.
Right.
A lot of times those updates contain critical security patches
Yeah.
that can prevent attackers from, exploiting vulnerabilities.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm tempted to put off those updates.
Oh, I know.
But you're right. They're essential.
Yeah, it's like leaving your front door unlocked. You're just asking for trouble.
You are.
So we've talked about what individuals can do.
Right.
But what about organizations?
Yeah, what are some, best practices they should be following?
Well, the first, and probably most important, is to view cybersecurity as an investment,
Okay.
not an expense.
Got it.
Having a, solid cybersecurity strategy can really save them,
Yeah.
from financial losses, damage to their reputation, all the legal headaches
Right.
to come later down the line.
And we already touched on this a little bit, but transparent communication is key.
Oh, yeah.
Both within the organization and with, the public.
Absolutely. They need a plan in place to respond quickly and honestly if something happens.
Right, because let's face it, news travels fast.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to cover up a breach is only going to make it worse.
Exactly. Transparency builds that trust.
Yeah.
And remember, preparation is key.
Right.
Don't wait until, you're in crisis mode to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
Regularly assess your risks, test your defenses, and have an incident response plan ready to go.
Okay, and when it comes to supply chain attacks, which seem to be happening more and more,
Yeah, those are tricky.
what can organizations do to, minimize their risk?
Do your homework, basically
Okay.
vet your vendors, your business partners, make sure they have good security practices in place.
Right.
Don't just assume they've got it covered.
Right.
Ask questions, review their policies, and, monitor their security.
Yeah.
Because a weak link anywhere can put the whole organization at risk.
It's like building a fortress, right?
Yeah.
Every single wall, every gate.
Every lookout point.
Yeah, has to be secure.
That's a great analogy, yeah.
Right.
And this brings us to something that's both exciting and maybe a little unsettling.
Okay.
Artificial intelligence, AI.
Right, the double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. It has the potential to really, revolutionize cybersecurity for the better.
Yeah.
It can automate tasks, detect threats more efficiently, respond to, incidents faster than any human could.
But of course, there's the other side of that coin, right?
As with any powerful tool, it can be misused, right?
Yeah.
And we're already seeing it being used to craft convincing phishing emails,
Oh, wow.
develop malware that can, bypass traditional detection methods, even create deep fakes that could be used in disinformation campaigns.
Wow, so it's like an arms race, right? Both the good guys and the bad guys are trying to use AI to their advantage.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Right.
And as the technology gets better, that arms race is only going to intensify.
So how do we stay ahead of the curve?
Well, we need to, develop new tools, techniques, strategies
Right.
to counter these AI-powered threats.
Okay.
But it's not just about building better defenses.
Right.
It's about promoting ethical and responsible use of AI.
Yeah.
Making sure this powerful technology is used for good, not for harm.
It's like we're trying to harness the power of fire without getting burned.
Yeah.
It's
a delicate balance. It's going to take, collaboration,
Yeah.
governments, industry, researchers, all working together to, establish some guidelines and regulations for
Right.
AI development and use.
Right. So, okay, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about something that's often overlooked, but really important: cybersecurity awareness.
You can have the best security tools out there,
Yeah.
but if your employees are clicking on phishing links
Right.
or falling for scams,
Yeah.
it's all for nothing.
Right. Humans are like the weakest link a lot of time.
That's why organizations really need to invest in training,
Yeah.
cybersecurity awareness training.
Okay, so what are some key things that employees should be, educated about?
Start with the basics.
Okay.
What is phishing? What is malware?
Right.
How can you recognize and avoid, these scams.
Yeah.
It's about empowering them to, spot the red flags and make good decisions.
Right. And it's not just about the technical knowledge, right?
Yeah.
It's about creating a culture.
A culture of cybersecurity. Yeah.
Yeah, within the organization.
Absolutely. Employees need to feel comfortable, reporting if they see something suspicious.
Right.
Asking questions,
Right.
speaking up if something doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
No one should be afraid to, raise concern.
Totally.
So it's about making cybersecurity everyone's responsibility.
Right. Not just it.
Not just I. Exactly. And that takes buy-in from leadership, good communication, and ongoing training.
Yeah.
It's a continuous process.
So it's not just about the tech.
It's about people. It's about building a culture of awareness and responsibility.
Exactly. It's about creating a human firewall.
A human firewall. I like that.
Right. So, okay, we've covered a lot.
Yeah.
But let's look ahead.
Okay.
What's the future of cybersecurity? What does it hold?
Well, the future's always a little uncertain, but one thing's for sure.
Okay.
Cybersecurity is only going to get more important.
Right.
As our lives become more and more intertwined with technology.
Yeah.
I mean, we're already seeing the impact on, elections, businesses, our personal lives.
Yeah, and as technology keeps evolving so quickly,
It's crazy.
the cyber threats are going to keep evolving too.
Absolutely. It's an ever-changing landscape, but instead of getting overwhelmed,
Yeah.
let's focus on some of the key trends and challenges we're going to see in the future, right?
Okay.
So AI, like we talked about, is going to be a big player
Right.
for both, the good guys and the bad guys.
Yeah.
We can expect to see, more sophisticated attacks using AI, as well as, more innovative security solutions using AI.
So it's like a chess game, both sides are constantly trying to outmaneuver each other.
Yeah, it is like, and then there's the rise of the Internet of Things, or IoT.
Right.
All these billions of devices connected, smart homes, wearables, industrial senses, medical equipment.
Right.
It creates this massive attack surface.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about how many potential entry points there are.
It is.
Right.
Securing all of that is going to be a huge challenge.
Yeah.
Especially since a lot of these devices don't even have basic security features.
Right. And of course, we can't forget about ransomware.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Which has basically become a global epidemic.
It has.
Is there any end in sight?
Unfortunately, ransomware shows no signs of slowing down.
Oh, wow.
In fact, it's getting even more sophisticated.
Yeah.
We're seeing more targeted attacks.
Right.
Higher ransoms. They're more willing to leak the stolen data.
Wow.
If victims don't pay.
So what can we do?
I mean, it's daunting.
Yeah.
But what can we do to prepare for these challenges?
Yeah.
And, make a more secure future?
Right.
Well, it's going to take a collective effort.
Okay.
Governments need to enact stricter regulations.
Right.
Collaborate more internationally to combat cybercrime.
Okay.
Industry needs to invest in better security.
Yeah.
And prioritize, ethical data practices.
Yeah.
And individuals need to be aware.
Right.
And take steps to protect themselves.
So it sounds like we all have a role to play.
We absolutely do. Building a safer digital world is everyone's responsibility.
It's been incredible so far exploring all these different aspects of cybersecurity, right? We've seen how it impacts everything from elections and governments to, businesses and individuals.
Absolutely. It's everywhere. It really is everywhere, High Speaker. Yeah, and it can feel a little overwhelming at times, but it's also fascinating,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's always evolving, and there's so much potential for, good.
Totally agree. And despite all the challenges and scary headlines, I'm actually pretty optimistic.
Okay. We're seeing some really incredible innovation, and more people are becoming aware, and there's this global effort, to tackle all this.
Yeah, I think so too.
So
to our listener, I hope this deep dive has, kind of given you a new way of looking at cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And maybe even made you curious to learn more.
Absolutely. I mean, we've covered so much today.
I know, it's a lot.
Ransomware attacks, election interference, AI, cybersecurity awareness, and as we wrap up, I wanted to leave you with one last thought.
Okay.
As our lives are getting more and more connected with technology, that line between the physical and digital worlds is getting blurrier.
Yeah.
So as we're, navigating all this, how do we make sure our values, our ethics, our humanity, don't get lost?
That's a good question, and it's a good reminder that cybersecurity isn't just about protecting data and systems.
Right.
It's about protecting, what makes us human.
Exactly. It's about building a future where technology helps us, not, controls us.
Yeah, well said. So with that, I guess we'll wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good.
To our listeners, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe out there.
It really is. It's kind of a crazy world out there.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? There are some like really exciting things happening too.
Oh, for sure.
In the cybersecurity world.
Definitely, yeah.
Like new technologies, new approaches, and just like a growing awareness.
Yeah, more people are paying attention.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Of how important all this is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
So to our listener, I hope this deep dive has kind of like sparked your interest in cybersecurity.
Yeah, I hope so.
And maybe even given you some things to think about, going forward.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've talked about a lot today.
Yeah, we have.
Ransomware, election interference, AI.
It's a lot.
The importance of awareness.
It's a whole world out there.
It is.
It is. And as we kind of wrap things up here,
yeah.
I wanted to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
So, our lives are becoming more and more digital.
Right.
That line between like the physical world and the digital world,
yeah.
it's getting blurry.
It is.
So, as we're, living in this increasingly digital world, how do we make sure that our values, our ethics,
right.
our humanity, aren't lost in the noise?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question.
It's something to think about.
Yeah.
And it reminds me that cybersecurity isn't just about, protecting data.
Right.
It's about protecting what makes us human.
Exactly.
It's about building a future where technology empowers us, not controls us.
Well said.
So,
well, on that note, I guess we'll wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good.
To our listeners, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe out there. 2238.